thank you. I'm Suzanne Beck, the Executive Director of the Chamber, as Jeff said. I'm going to first make a comment about the amazing group of people in this room, people that get things done and care for the community, and I know that's why you're all here. So whom better to start things off than our mayor, David Darkowitz? You want to come? I was saying nice things.
Sorry, I was conferring with the host. So I just wanted to obviously give an official welcome to the Senate President, to the great city of Northampton. Thank you so much for being here today here in the Valley. We appreciate it. And I just also wanted to just share a personal story. She may not remember this, but earlier toward the beginning of the year, when I found myself as a mayor without both a state rep and a state senator, we had a phone conversation, and she was so kind and generous and said, if you need anything for Northampton, call me. And I just really appreciate you and all the other senators who stepped forward to help Northampton, which was one of 2 communities in the Commonwealth that was without a state rep or a state senator for many months. So thank you, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being here. I wanted to also acknowledge other elected officials and soon to be officially elected officials. So first of all, our incoming state representative for the 1st Hampshire District, who will be our new state representative here in Northampton, Lindsay Sabadosa, is here. And from the 2nd Hampshire District, State Representative-elect Dan Carey is here. So thank you, Dan. And then we also have some members of our local city council here that I want to acknowledge. The Ward 4 city councilor and the vice president of the Northampton City Council, Gina Louise Sierra, is here. She's also my city councilor. I always like to remind people of that. City Councilor Dennis Bidwell, who I know is going to be part of the program later, is here. Thank you, Dennis. And then we're actually located in Ward 3, right here, Ward 3, right on the other side of the tracks, as they sometimes say. I'm kidding, it's a joke. But Jim Nash, who's the Ward 3 City Councilor, is here. So again, welcome, Senate President, and now I get to introduce the person who helped organize this today and put together this entire tour, and that is, of course, our great state senator-elect and my friend, Joe Comerford.
Hello, everyone, and I have here, of course, with me Suzanne Beck, who has been a partner in today's organizing, along with Dennis, to make it possible for us to welcome Senate President Spilka to Northampton with the kind of style that she deserves and that we have to show her. Suzanne, do you want to say a few words before?
Yeah, just a few. First of all, on behalf of everybody here, I'd like to thank you, Senate President Spilka, for being here, for taking an interest in our region. I hope you've been enlightened by the amazing character of our area, and certainly a lot of demonstrated commitment to creating opportunity, which I know is the theme for your day today. I'd like to thank Joe for partnering with the Chamber, and to Dennis for making that happen. It's been an honor, really, to have such an early opportunity to work together, so I look forward to the rest of this and more. And then just to thank the Northampton Community Arts Trust. I think this is such a perfect location for this event because it reflects such an enormous community investment, an investment that people would find hard to believe, I think, in a city that is the size of our community, but also parallel with that, with the commitment to the arts that this demonstrates, which is a very important value of ours and something we're very proud of. So my job is to kind of introduce the presenters in a way today, but the idea of creating opportunity has really been something that the Chamber and a lot of community leaders have been working hard on, starting with an economic strategy that we developed a couple of years ago, which began with a philosophy about growth needs to come in partnership with creating opportunity. And so today's theme, actually the people you're going to hear from, many of them were involved in that and can really speak to what that means, which I think is, not everybody can put those two together the way that we have, so I'm very proud of that. I guess lastly, I'll just say that I've been rather formal, but we want to keep things informal here. So the presenters will be talking for a few minutes, and then we're going to have a great opportunity for a Q&A with our Senate President. So thank you again all for coming, and back to Joe.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, the Chamber. And thank you to the Arts Trust. This mic is interesting, right? Thank you to the Arts Trust so much, and Jeff, for hosting. And I would like, actually, Senate President Spilka, if you don't mind, would you mind standing so that everybody can welcome you to Northampton? So, Senate President Spilka got up super early this morning and has been on a whirlwind tour of our region, right, our 24 cities and towns, which is the Hampshire, Franklin, Worcester State Senate District. And our focus today, and it's wonderful to share these values with the Senate President, has been on really addressing chronic inequality. So we had the first stop at the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, where many folks who are known to us, who have been leading the service provision in our region, spoke beautifully about the kinds of work that's being done in housing and homelessness and economic inequality, and food security and health. And then we were up at GCC, thanks to President Yves Solomon Fernandez for hosting, and we talked about the opportunities created. I think it was you, Senate President, who called it a ladder for our children, right? Created through robust and sustained and right funding of our public institutions, pre-K through higher ed. And we're here to bring it on home, thanks to Suzanne and the Arts Trust. You know, really talking about the unique local economies that we have here in Western Massachusetts, to give the Senate President an understanding of the full range of economies that we're incredibly proud of here in Western Massachusetts, that are different from the rest of the Commonwealth, unique, and actually that really create a lift all boats opportunity for our communities, and actually for the Commonwealth. And I think in terms of sectors like, for example, the green economy and the health economy and all economies that are going to be talked about today, they really are opportunities for the nation. So just a process point here, friends, Sam is going to help our speakers stay on track, so she'll have a 1 minute and a stop for you. Sam has that honor. And with that, I'm going to actually welcome up Claire Cheng, who's going to kick us off. Claire is from Greenfield and works in the solar industry. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you so much, Joe, and I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you so much for coming out to our region. We have a wonderful place out here. Nothing at all like Eastern Massachusetts, and it's not California either, although some of us like to pretend that we're in California sometimes. So my topic is the green economy, which I'm sure everyone has some familiarity with, but the big part of it, of why it exists, is because of climate chaos and global weirding and whatever else that is happening at far greater a rate than we can actually comprehend. And so we all know that the report came out just 2 or 3 weeks ago that said that we really need to advance much more quickly our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and carbon dioxide and methane gas and everything else. And when all of that was first coming out in Massachusetts was the legislation in 2008 that Governor Deval Patrick enacted, which is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, the Global Warming Solutions Act, and the Renewable Portfolio Standard. All those provided us with a huge boost in green jobs and businesses. So my company, Solar Store of Greenfield, started in 2005, but we were really small and tiny, and it wasn't until this push in 2008 that happened that a number of us and other organizations got together around renewable energy and energy efficiency and really were able to push forward and start hiring people and making a difference in the valley, up and down, for residences, local homeowners, and also small businesses. We have grown every year since 2008. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's been phenomenal. Although I have to admit, it's not all straight up. Some of it has been a little bit of what we call the solar roller coaster. Because of the incentives and the different regulatory policies. There have certainly been ups and downs in all of these green energy areas. Certainly in energy efficiency, it was a lot of a rough start there back in the 2008 to 2012 area. It seems to have leveled out now, and we've gotten really pushed the utilities forward so that we can actually see a lot of home weatherization and increased energy efficiency on all levels. Also, you were, I think, at lunch at the Greenfield Community College today. They have a renewable energy workforce development program, both a certificate and degree program, which has been absolutely wonderful for encouraging people of all walks to participate in the workforce, and also providing me with qualified workers. I actually have two Greenfield, oh no, it can't be a minute already. Two Greenfield Community College graduates on my staff, which I am really grateful for. So all of these policies have enabled us to grow 1,600 megawatts of solar, which sounds like a big number, but it's actually a really tiny number. It's 1.6 gigawatts. Only 4 or 5% of our electricity comes from solar in Massachusetts. So Governor Baker has been riding the coattails of Governor Deval Patrick, but he has not shown the leadership of getting to 100% renewable energy by 2050, nor 50% by 2030. We really need to push him to make sure that we have a chance to actually grow the economies here in the state of Massachusetts, replace the $20 billion that goes out to pay for fossil fuels in the state. That money can stay here, and we can use it to our advantage to build our economies, to give our kids and residents jobs every day. And I got the stop sign, so I've got at least another 30 minutes here.
Thank you, Claire. And I love that you tied it into education, because both President Solomon Fernandez and Chancellor Subbaswamy are keen on this pipeline, right? So thank you so much. And I know we all probably have, a lot more time. So I appreciate your goodwill here. And next I want to welcome up Alexandra Kennedy, who's the Executive Director of the Eric Carle Museum, and is going to talk to us about the creative economy here in Western Massachusetts. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, Senate President Spilka. Lovely to have you here. I am going to read from notes in hopes I don't get the gong at the end, so that'll keep me a little bit focused. The creative sector here accounts for more than 5,000 jobs in Hampshire County, making it the 6th largest industry here. It has a much greater presence in our county than it does in most U.S. counties, and makes it an attractive area for potential residents, for college and grad students, and for tourists. Any day of the week, you can come to the area to see world-class musical acts, to go to a lecture by a famous writer, or take workshops with world-class artisans. This region has particular strengths in media and film, design, arts and crafts, performing arts, and cultural heritage and museums. Each community here offers a different value to the art scene: affordable housing or studio space for artists, a large consumer base, primarily the colleges, downtown art scenes, or flourishing arts organizations like the one we're in. Two key things to understand when thinking about the creative businesses. Self-employed and sole proprietors make up 70% of the jobs in the industry. That's a lot of people working alone in a studio. Their average income is $22,270. The arts community is not being sufficiently promoted and is not sufficiently networking. Several years ago, and this alludes to what Suzanne was talking about with a group that was meeting regularly on economic development. Several years ago, I co-chaired the Creative Industries Action Team, a collaboration of artists and business leaders from the creative industry in Hampshire County working together to strengthen the sector and increase opportunity for artists and creative professionals living here. We had 3 goals: to increase the number of creative sector jobs that are available, to create more opportunities for established and budding creative professionals to be successful in their work, and to increase wages. So we identified 3 priorities to address those challenges, and I would be here all day if I told you all of the various ideas under each of these goals that we established, but I'll give you the top 3. We want to strengthen the networks within the creative industries. We want to do that by increasing business-to-business exchanges through networking events and other gatherings. This is something that has a lot of grassroots energy around the country, and there are lots of models we could follow. We want to connect creative businesses with entrepreneurship services to strengthen business and marketing skills. Because you're an artist doesn't mean you know how to market your business. We want to ensure that college students educated in Hampshire County are aware of the opportunities to start a creative business in Hampshire County. They love living here, they would like to stay, but they believe that the opportunities are not here. And we would like to cross-promote events to increase attendance and the diversity of the participants. Our second goal, attract local and outside resources to the creative industries. Increase the number of tourists patronizing arts and creative businesses. Increase local sourcing of creative services and products. If you own a business here, you should be turning to the arts businesses that are here to help provide your services. And we'd like to expand the philanthropic and public support for creative offerings in Hampshire County. And our third goal, improve infrastructure for artists and creative industries. And that means primarily ensuring supply and access to affordable housing, live-work spaces, affordable studios, and to transportation, which is an issue throughout the county. Note, too, that the issues that an artist has in, say, Northampton or East Hampton is vastly different than what an artist might have living in the hill towns. So these are also very, very different groups. So our committee clearly saw a lot of potential to improve life for everyone in the arts community here, and there would be a lot of potential that would have positive ripple effects for everybody who lives and does business here. We don't currently have the funding to continue the research that we were doing. It was primarily and in many ways a grassroots effort, but we are eager to get back to work and figure out ways to really help improve the health of what is an incredibly vital part of our community here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, Alex. Our next speaker's ears were probably burning because when we were up in Greenfield Community College, President Solomon Fernandez talked about a conversation that we've been having locally around nursing and how we merge with the healthcare economy, which our next speaker, Joanne Marcosi, who's the president and CEO of Cooley Dickinson Hospital, the region's largest employer, along with the University of Massachusetts, has been a front runner in solving problems for us around the healthcare economy for a long time and helped convene a conversation that's continuing to ripple out. So, Joanne.
Good afternoon, and I also welcome you, Senator President Spilka. And I want to thank you, Joe. I have been so impressed at how quickly and effectively Senator Comerford has become involved in really important policy issues, and particularly how much she looks for practical solutions. So I'm excited to work with her on this. Yes, very pragmatic. But let me talk specifically about what Cooley Dickinson's needs are, and really as a template for what the healthcare sector in this area needs. So there's no question our top priority is workforce development. In Hampshire County, healthcare employs about 8,000 people, and Cooley Dickinson alone has close to 2,000 employees. We struggle every day with attracting enough staff and providers to meet the needs, the needs of our community. And while it's a challenge for all rural areas around the country, it is especially challenging in an area like this when you're relatively close to major urban centers that have multiple healthcare organizations and academic medical centers. So loan forgiveness and other programs could certainly help us recruit and retain top talent, and we'll need support in the legislature for such initiatives. And we know there are many ways the state could help us address this need to train more nurses that Joe mentioned. And I'm really excited about these collaborative discussions we started. I think they showed us, as usual, there is not one easy answer, but together we should be able to figure it out. In addition to training more people locally, we definitely need to attract professionals from other areas and helping promote our region as a place for young professionals to live and raise a family. I know it's wonderful, but too few people know that. So my personal confession, I actually, until 4.5 years ago, I was one of those Eastern Massachusetts people who was clueless about what the Pioneer Valley had to offer. But since I moved here, I've been reformed, And I have become a cheerleader for all that this area has to offer and an advocate for Boston to recognize the importance and value of our region. So I'm happy to come and talk to people about my reform. I'd also note that I've been struck by how collaborative a community this is. There is no better place you could turn to for piloting creative cross-industry solutions to complex problems. So bring it on, we'll figure it out. Even with success in recruitment, we know that we will increasingly rely on telemedicine to provide care in rural areas. This can be a real game changer. But currently in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is behind other states in this regard, the reimbursement for telemedicine is virtually non-existent, and that compromises how much we can offer these important services. I know Senator Spilka has already noted the importance in other venues of continuing to reform our healthcare system. And as much as Massachusetts has certainly led the nation with regard to expanding coverage and improving access, more can and should be done. Just a couple of areas to highlight are the importance of bringing Medicaid reimbursement up to reasonable levels. While hospitals like Cooley serve all regardless of insurer, and Medicaid patients have access to all our services, there remain areas where Medicaid patients do not have the access they need, in great part because of the low reimbursement rates. So whether that's access to private practices, specialists, dentistry, mental health, the rates have to be higher or we're not going to serve this population. And for us at Cooley, an institution like ours, the low rates of Medicaid are making it increasingly difficult for us to be able to be sustainable. Another specific area of importance is mental health services. Here again, low reimbursement, but not just in Medicaid, contributes to that lack of capacity. And ask any parent, they'll tell you that it's really a crisis around pediatric mental health. Finally, I want to put a plug in for investment in social services, which Senator Spilka, as a former social worker, knows well. But we don't just see our role at Cooley as providing health care to those who show up. We do see it as our mission to optimize the health of our community. So all this, what are known as the social determinants of health, education, transportation, housing, social services, all of these need to be addressed. And certainly the opioid epidemic, although a lot has been done in our state, we need more to be done. So on behalf of Cooley and all of the healthcare, I really do thank you. And thank you for doing this today, and we are really excited about partnering with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joanne. Our next speaker is Philip Corman, and Philip Corman is known to many of us as the Executive Director of CISA, Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, Buy Local Food, which I know I saw lots of those bumper stickers outside, so I know our community supports the commitment to agriculture and the agriculture economy and ag tourism, which Phil is going to talk to us about.
So since we've been talking about geographical confessions, I did live 30 years ago in Somerville and moved because I was driving to 3 different urban garden spots, and that didn't seem very efficient. So I've lived here for 30 years, and usually the one-liner I say to people who live here is that the reason we're inspired to live here, whether we know it or not, is really the farms. And it could be because we're the 5th generation who's lived in the valley, and we grew up and our grandparents had farms, or we're working on farms. Or it could be that we really appreciate the ingredients that are going to our restaurants, or all the amazing fresh local produce and meats and honeys and sweet maple syrups that we can get or we can boil. So, and as I listened to everyone, talking and even being there today at the food bank, what people often don't know is that I honestly believe that our community is broken when the food that is grown in the community is not available to everyone in that community. So we know that 15 to 20% of the food that we eat here in the valley is grown here in the valley. That is an important source of food. And we know that the local farmers in the valley are donating a minimum of 500,000 pounds of fresh produce to the food bank. And that doesn't count all the food that gets donated to the local Amherst Survival Center, Northampton Survival Center, Holyoke food pantries, et cetera, et cetera. And when that gets cut, as we've seen even with Amazon taking over Whole Foods, which took over Bread and Circus, that food does not come back to the community. So And the other piece I always feel like out in Western Mass, we're sort of like Horton Hears a Who. We need a lot of people gathering together, say, we're here, and then we get heard. And we've had great elected officials over the years who have brought product from Western Mass and shared it, I think, throughout the State House and the State Senate. And we have an agricultural day where we serve up food from Massachusetts to everyone, so we make that connection for folks who don't have that opportunity. I know in your district you do have farms, and you're committed to those farms. And so we constantly just need to remind people that food actually usually comes out of the ground, and the people who make that happen don't have a roof over their heads. So when you have 2 months of drought in May and June, and then 4 months of double the amount of rainfall, that has an impact on your work. We have an emergency farm fund at CISA. We open it up for natural disaster, and it's kind of turning into a climate change emergency loan fund. We had 8 farms come forward, and I was hearing stories from farms that were, I have farmed for 40 years, and I have no idea what I'm going to do in the spring. I don't know how compacted the soil is. I don't know what diseases will be in it because it was so wet for so long. I don't know when spring is coming, and I don't know when I'm going to plant. So, riffing off climate change, we're here, and I don't think it's political to say there's climate change. The strategies to solve it may be political. So I want to say that the opportunities for farmers and the Commonwealth is, when we look at the challenges we have in the state, the question is, how do we make sure as we go to solve those problems, we're supporting local agriculture and the local food economy? So if we're talking about hunger, the Healthy Incentive Program is great, and thank you so much. We did increase that funding to $6 million. I hope we can do it to $7 million. If we're talking about a MFAP, I hope that more money can go to local as the food banks are purchasing more food, if we can keep increasing the resources for that. I think if we're talking about the undocumented community residents throughout the state, those are the people who are harvesting our food for the most part and are putting food on our table, and we need to respect those people, and we need to allow them to live without terror. I think climate change, there's some beginning steps the Baker administration has taken. I think there's more, and I think our farmers are the coal miners who are seeing this change over this generation and this past 10 years, and we need to help them with that. And I need to stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you so much. So our next speaker is going to help us see some of the challenges, systemic challenges to robust local economic development. And during Senate President Spilka's tour, we've talked about things like broadband internet that are necessary to both education and local economic development. And Joanne Campbell, who's the director of the Valley CDC, Community Development Corporation, is going to now talk to us about the need for investment in affordable housing for the workers who will help, again, be in the boats that get lifted by this local economy. Thanks, Joanne.
Good afternoon. So as she said, I'm Joanne Campbell. I'm the Executive Director of Valley Community Development. I'm right up the street here on Market for a couple more months, and we are also the developers of the lumberyard building around the corner on Pleasant Street that is going up, that will be ready in June, and we are moving our offices there to the Holyoke Street side. It's a 55-unit apartment building with some commercial space on the first floor on the Pleasant Street side, and will be on the Holyoke Street side. So we strongly believe that there needs to be a variety of housing types in our communities, and that this creates a strong and vibrant community. We basically focus on the development of affordable housing. We counsel first-time home buyers and existing homeowners, and we also counsel small businesses. So, you know, it's not just for the folks who need affordable housing. This really adds to the vitality for local housing resources and employees as well, as Joe mentioned. But first I wanted to say what we focus on in our housing. We focus on both housing for individuals, which tends to be single-room occupancy housing, sort of the first rung of housing for extremely low-income people, people coming out of homelessness, people with mental health challenges, and just simply low-wage earners. We also work with family housing, and that's what the the lumberyard around the corner will mostly be family housing. We currently have over 210 units of housing in the pipeline. We have 120 units, family units. We have 59 enhanced SROs, and we have 33 senior units in the Northampton, Amherst, and Sunderland communities. So this is great. Obviously, this is a great amount of support that we get from local, state, federal, and private dollars to make these projects work. To give you a sense of sort of the importance, and a lot of you know how important housing is, but we have someone that's on our community engagement committee, Angelique Baker, and she put the impact of housing on her family this way. She said her children are putting down roots, and it's important to this single mom because she said she moved so many times growing up that she has no distinct memories of home. And for those of us who had a stable home, it's like hard to imagine that you can't think of sort of what home means to you. And so this is a really important piece for folks who have instability in their housing. And again, I'm assuming I'm speaking to the choir a bit here, but when housing is affordable and there's stability, people can do other things. They can focus on food, they can focus on employment, they can focus on education, they can focus on their kids' homework, they can focus on their health because they're not worrying about how they're going to pay the rent or even their mortgage. Research shows that stable housing costs have profound effects on childhood development and school performance, and it can improve health outcomes for families and individuals. As Joanne mentioned from Cooley, these determinants of health, obviously housing is a big one. As I mentioned, our affordable housing developments depend heavily on a lot of local dollars and state and federal, but we also hire architects and engineers, subcontractors, general contractors, and so that really also lends a boost to the local economy. And then those folks are spending their money, regionally as well in the economy. So I just wanted to give one example. This is really based on national statistics for low-income housing developments, which the lumberyard is, but we finished a project in East Hampton, Parsons Village, a couple of years ago. And basically what they have surmised for how this affects the local economy is jobs. So this is a 38-unit development. It's about an $11 million job. Jobs created directly and indirectly by new construction, 30. Jobs supported by spending on supplies, materials, and meals, 16. And then jobs supported by the residents who are in those new homes, 11. So it really benefits everyone. And it makes employers more competitive to have a range of housing types. Thanks. And I have flyers for the lumberyard. We're marketing the apartments.
We're so excited to see the lumberyard open. So we have a final speaker, and that's Dennis Bidwell. And when we were all thinking about, what kind of story we wanted to tell the Senate President about what was happening here in the local economy, we wanted to focus on specific sectors and some real kinds of needs to bolster those sectors. And we also wanted to pull out small businesses as this unique treasure. Now that cuts across some of these sectors, but there is something unique and lovely about our small business sector. And Dennis Bidwell is going to tell us about it. And Dennis runs the Bidwell Advisors, and is active locally, as David said, Mayor Narkowitz said, on the City Council and a lot of local initiatives. Dennis.
I'll add my welcome, Senator President Spilka, for joining us for a day in the Valley. It's such a pleasure to see gathered in one room so many folks who are so vital to the networks that make this such a special place, and to be at an event put together by Jo Comerford, and to have her networks and movements all represented here, and the Chamber of Commerce, which is such a hub of innovation and creativity under Suzanne's leadership. To have it all here, along with local government that I'm now proud to be part of, and a responsive state government, it's a pleasure to be part of all of it. Since folks have been sharing their Valley origin stories, here's mine, because mine very much provided an initial exposure to this really remarkable intersection between the small business community and innovation in the nonprofit sector, which is such a huge part of what we're hearing about today and what makes this such a special place. My story is 21 years ago, I moved with my family to Northampton, drawn in no small measure by the music and arts and agricultural life of the valley. My daughter had previously rowed in high school. She was at Northampton High. I see some, many folks have been hit up to support this at one time or another. And we thought, well, why shouldn't there be a crew program at Northampton High? And it happened. But it didn't happen because of seed money from foundations in New York or Boston. It happened because the shop owners and the fishmongers and the realtors and the copy shops and the builders and the insurance companies all stepped forward to support this new idea of supporting a different form of youth athletics in the high school. And it was a remarkable experience in community building, but it was a remarkable experience too in realizing the role of small businesses in a community like this. And it's those same small businesses that year in and year out continue to be there to support the arts, to support First Night, to support our communities that are welcoming immigrants and undocumented folks to the valley, the organizations that continue to provide music. They're all supported by small business here in the valley and here in Northampton in particular. And it's these same small businesses and leaders of small businesses that 30 and 40 years ago stepped forward taking enormous financial risks, putting themselves on the line to transform real estate and businesses in Northampton to make what is now downtown Northampton the envy of downtowns around the country. It all has its origin in entrepreneurship and creativity and risk-taking among small business owners. Indeed, the Arts Trust building that we're so proud to be part of here today, it wouldn't have happened without small businesses contributing and stepping up in partnership with state government. So it's this vibrant quality of life that has so much to do with continuing to attract smart, interesting people here, who then step onto the boards of these organizations and open small businesses, which create further quality of life, which continues to bring people to the valley. And at the core of that cycle is a small, 1 minute already? Oh my goodness. Joe didn't tell you I might get a little. So let me see. Let me jump to the chase then. I mean, we have many strengths to build on. We have organizations and businesses led by people with tremendous leadership experience and vision. We have businesses and nonprofits accustomed to collaborating with one another, to welcoming new ideas, to working with one another within sectors and across sectors. We have this fascinating balance between education and healthcare sectors, which anchor our economy in such important ways, but we also have this rapidly growing tech and creative economy sector. It's all a quite wonderful mix. But there's also a sense of being held back a little bit. It could be even better. And you've heard about some of these challenges that face us and some of the things that we could do even better. The top of my list is we need to do better, find a better way to keep people from leaving. We have 100,000 undergraduate students and 30,000 graduate students in the so-called knowledge corridor, north-south. We need to keep them, and we need to continue attracting people. And we'll do a better job of that if we enhance our transportation systems. That's number one on my list. Where it's great that we're going to have a couple of more trains coming from Greenfield to Springfield coming in the summer. Fingers crossed. But we need more. That just begins to tap the potential of the north-south commuter patterns that are part of what the Valley is about. PVTA, it's wonderful. It's also horribly underfunded. It's a vital link that connects the education and the communities that most need transportation and most need education. We need more workforce development. We made a lot of progress, but we need much more workforce development and attention to technology transfer from the wonderful things going on at UMass. All of this is solid and to be built on, but in partnership with the state, there's so much more to be done. And I guess the other thing that I would mention in in closing, as I must, is that a very strong commitment to public education has come from our state government. We need even more, and particularly our wonderful community colleges. So with that, I will close. We have a lot to be proud of with our really resilient and balanced local economies, but we believe that in partnership with the state, we can make even stronger regional economies to provide greater access to all of the vibrant diversity that makes this place so wonderful. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dennis. And I saw a lot of heads nodding and a lot of exclamations when you talked about those things that built on what Joanne was saying in terms of affordable housing, transportation, broadband. So thank you for that and holding up our small businesses. Okay, friends, thank you. Well, let's give a big hand for the panel or the speakers. Now we have an opportunity to hear from Senate President Spilka, who has been, bless you, listening all day. And, I'll just say that there are common themes, right? There are common themes that Senate President Spilka has heard in all of these stops. And so we'll warmly welcome you up to speak with us.
Thank you, Senator-elect. As I said earlier, I love hearing those words. I'm looking forward to being able to say full Senator Comerford, which is coming soon. And I'm looking forward to having, I think Joe will be such a tremendous asset to the entire Senate, so as well as to Western Mass. But, thank you. Thank you. Thank Mayor Narkowitz for being here, Reps-elect Sabadosa and Carey, and the city councilors. I just want to say, too, what a tremendous, beautiful building this is and how lucky you are to have this. I'm jealous. I know my community, we have we've taken over some old fire stations or other places for performing arts centers or community arts and cultural centers, but I know Ashland, my hometown, is looking to do something. This is magnificent. So Suzanne, congratulations to the trust and to everybody who was a part of this. I just want to start out by saying and address the arts, humanities, and culture, and because it is such a tremendous and vital part of your economy out here. I can assure you I have been a very strong supporter. Even way back when I was on the school committee, I made sure that in order to graduate, students had to take one full credit, one full year of arts and humanities, because we know, research shows, we know when young students have an opportunity to learn the arts and humanities, it uses other parts of their brains, and it's a fuller development, and it stays with them their whole life. It enriches their lives, and it's just really important. And I've kept that through with and being chair of economic development in creating the mass marketing partnership so that we would have a better way to market Massachusetts, to create a few more travel and tourism bureaus. There was never one in my district because we know how important it is and how vital it is for that economy. I developed the regional economic development organizations that I call the REDOs for regional economic development. And this year we did add $2 million to the Mass Cultural Council to increase the funding for that. So it's very exciting, and I have to say, to look out and see so many innovative, ambitious folks involved with economic development, I get excited just in being able to be here with you. You drive so much of our success right here in Massachusetts and help us to continually claim the mantle of the center of innovation and economic success that so many other states long for and are nipping at our heels to get. And you guys have helped us prevent that from happening, so thank you. During my time as in the legislature, as I said, I had the great honor of being chair of economic development for several years. I chaired the Jobs Creation Commission, which took me around the state during the recession and listened to people. Going back to my roots as a social worker and arbitrator mediator, I still feel that listening is a tremendous part of our job. And I created the Tech Hub Caucus because I felt like it was important that sector was changing so much to bridge the communication between the tech sector in Massachusetts and the legislature. During that time, it was a lot of fun. I loved going out and doing field trips and with the tech sector and the biotech caucus to go around and see all the cool startups and companies and to see and allow the showcase of the companies. And I know how hard it is for all of you work to grow and keep businesses here in Massachusetts, and how hard you work for the products, for the services, for all that you do that make a positive impact on people's lives. So I thank you for being part of our strong economic ecosystem here in Massachusetts. And I know how important chambers of commerce, that they've always been so instrumental in nurturing that ecosystem. So as Senate President, I don't have as much time to get out, although I really enjoy it. And I do want to mention, as I've mentioned to the other times that I've spoken today, my Chief of Staff, Marianne, who's here, she may have stepped out, actually, but she is here. She is here. She reminded me that, and I'm saying this to hopefully reassure all of you, since I've been Senate President, I've visited 3 major districts, spending days in those districts. The first one was Springfield, second one was Pittsfield, third one today with Joe Comerford, Senate District. So it's really important that I believe it's really important that I keep listening and I keep hearing from people. So I think now as Senate President, it's Chair of Ways and Means to some extent. You know, I was interested in the whole state, not just my district, but as Senate President in particular, in a lot of ways I feel that I have the opportunity to work for the whole state, and that's really exciting to me. So I want you to know from the outset that one of my most important priorities is regional equity and regional empowerment. I believe that each region in the Commonwealth has unique assets and unique challenges. And no one, absolutely no one, knows those opportunities and challenges better than the folks who live in those regions. And I believe that listening to the regions to understand what they need to become stronger economic drivers and better places to live, work, and raise a family. Because I've said many times, we only succeed as a Commonwealth if each region succeeds. So listening closely to the needs of our regions, combined with the Senate's commitment to be bold in our leadership, will guide the upcoming legislative session. In order to ensure that we continue to have a thriving economy, I believe that Massachusetts must take the leadership and lead on the issues that have a potential to negatively impact both our productivity and quality of life every day right here in Massachusetts, including, and I'll mention some of these areas you've already touched on, and I think it's great. Transportation. That is an issue. As I've said before, every place I go, people talk about how long it took to get there. Seriously, it takes up the first 10, 15 minutes. If you have a short meeting, it makes it even shorter because everybody's talking about transportation and the congestion. Seriously. And our failing infrastructure, our roads, bridges, and the lack of vision as to how to improve it, and our regional transportation authorities. And that is something I can promise you I will continue to work to build. When I became, and again, if you were at the other meetings and heard this, I apologize. When I became a senator in 2005, my first mission was to change the law to allow my region to have an RTA. We were prohibited from creating. Could you believe that? We try to talk about increasing public transportation. And one of my communities tried to join an existing RTA and was told, oh no, you can't join it. So if you looked at a map, and I'm, nothing personal to you, but if you looked at a map, because I know you think that you had no transportation, the largest swath of Massachusetts was close to the Boston area. It was in between Boston and Worcester. It was my district, an extended district. That whole Metro West region was just void of any bus service, any public transportation, which I thought was unfair, unjust, and that was my mission to change it. And by the end of the first session, I did change the law to allow areas to create new RTAs or join existing RTAs. I know, you think this is sort of, it was counterintuitive or counter what we want. So that's one thing that I have fought for, is increasing funding. I know how important it is to our seniors, our disabled, our employees, our employers, and just a quality of life for people who may not want or can't afford a car. So this past year, I'm proud I added $8 million to the RTA line item so that more RTAs can get strong footing for those RTAs that were having a little bit of trouble, and also look at what were some of the best practices that they might want to add to their service, whether it be night service, weekend service, or whatever it might be. So that's something that I can continue I promise that I will continue to hold sight on. The ongoing housing crunch and ending homelessness is another priority of mine, and I'm proud that the Senate version of the budget the last few years has put a priority on ending homelessness and different programs to help people in their homes, or help them if they have no home, to simple things like making sure they don't need to sleep in a hospital one night or a park bench with their kids to prove that they are homeless. That's not safe for families, and it wasn't right. So these are things, plus, and I do believe that we will be doing a housing and potential zoning bill, hopefully early on in the session as well. But one thing, too, that I'm proud of, we were able to add money for preventing homelessness for unaccompanied youth, for those challenged with mental illness, and our seniors, our veterans, and other programs. Education is an area that we went into quite a bit before. That was my springboard to run for the legislature in the 2000. I was on the school committee, discovered how I felt my town was not getting its fair share of Chapter 70. At that point, most communities felt that way and still do to some extent. And so that's why I ran for the legislature, and was proud that in building a coalition, we did make some changes in 06, 07. We still have to look at the adequacy part to make sure that every single child in Massachusetts gets not only an adequate but a quality education wherever they live. So that's something that still is very near and dear to my heart. The cost of health care, is something that the Senate tackled last session. We worked with the Milbank Foundation to look at healthcare reform in not only reducing overall costs of healthcare, but increasing access and quality to healthcare. We included a big component on telemedicine, and we had a lot of other terrific pieces on scope of service and other things. Medicaid reimbursement, we made sure that we didn't agree, at that point I didn't agree with the governor of lowering the cost of health care by kicking off 140,000 persons off of Medicaid. We figured it would have saved a lot of money, but we were the first state in the nation to increase the number of people on mass health and to get to close to universal health care. I wasn't about to let us be the first state to kick people off. So the opioid crisis is another area that we will probably need to continue to look at because it's an ever-evolving crisis. We finally have bent the curve. Our fatalities were going up and up. It finally is going down because of the availability of fentanyl. We created bulk purchasing programs for municipalities, and we've done a lot with the opioid pills in mandating pain management, and you have to mandate and legislate that doctors and providers talk to their patients about what they want to do for pain. It sounds a little crazy, but we did. And so we've bent the curve, but we still have a long way to go. And we still need to make sure, not only with fentanyl, but the other synthetic drugs, that we keep a tab on them. The one thing that is important to me, if people know me, my father suffered from mental illness. So this is something that I really want to tackle. I would love for Massachusetts to be the first state to figure out a way to get rid of the stigma of mental illness. And I do believe that a lot of addiction, not all, but a lot of it, whether it be alcohol or drug addiction, are symptoms of unmet mental health needs. So that's something, and it would be great to have opioid and addiction as well as mental illness treated just like a physical health care, like diabetes or cardiac disease. The last thing that I want to mention, because there's still just like Dennis, you said you could go on and on, or Phil. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. The challenge of preparing for and even reversing some of the most damaging effects of climate change. There is a sense of urgency. The Senate did a very broad omnibus bill last session. I'm very proud. I was one of 2 original sponsors of the original 2008 Global Warming Solutions Act. So, I feel like this is something that we need to keep up on our forefront and continually make changes to that, working with the House and the governor. So clearly, we have a lot of work to do, and I truly believe that the people of the Commonwealth deserve nothing less than our best efforts, our strongest efforts on all of these and more of the pressing issues, because our collective future is at stake. So I hope for you to know that my door is always open, and I look forward to working with Senator-elect Comerford in collaboration as a social worker, as a mediator. I am a strong proponent of working together. I do believe in the power of partnerships, and I hear very strongly that you guys rock with that, so I look forward to working with you on it. Thank you.
We'll have time for 2 questions before we have this great opportunity for a tour of the Arts Trust building. So 2 questions. Please.
I've heard.
Can you say your name and your town?
I'm Joe Blumenthal. I'm a local small business person. I sell musical instruments. I've heard a lot of talk about the problem of climate change, a lot of talk about the problem of transportation, and there's one solution to this that is so simple and would so harness the power of the market to do all these things for you. And it's not popular, I know. And in fact, one of the most depressing news stories that I remember of the state of Massachusetts is when the voters voted down the idea of indexing the gasoline tax. And if you put a tax on carbon, you will simultaneously, without any other encouraging legislation, do everything you need to deal with the problem of global warming. You will, I don't know what the math is, but 5, 10, 15 cents on a gallon of gasoline, put a bond on it, you could have rail between Springfield and Boston with the greatest of ease. You could fix all of our crumbling bridges and roads, and you may have revenue left over to support education. And maybe somebody needs to really get up and explain to the population.
The Senate did it this last year, just to let you know. We passed a bill that included a carbon tax. So You know, it's a process. It's educating all of our colleagues and folks and looking at alternatives. And it takes time. It takes time to build that coalition. Just like, you know, I think of the ed reform bill. I started working on making changes in '98. It didn't happen until 2006, 2007. When I was chair of Children Families, I worked to get rid of the old CHIN system. I don't know if anybody is aware of that, and created the Children Requiring Assistance. That took me 7 years as well. It's a slow process, and it's meant to be slow because of all that's involved, but it's something that you learn. If you're persistent and you just keep at it and have the steady progress, it can happen.
And you know probably that I campaigned in support of a carbon fee and rebate or carbon tax. I like to tell the Senate President that we don't mind talking about taxes here in Western Massachusetts, and that when we can invest them in things we care about, like public transportation and education, you know, we're all for them. So, you know, you have me as an ally, and this actually is just a great little sidebar, which is that, you know, I'm your person. I'm going to go to work for you in Boston.
And I'm going to look for her to give me feedback.
I'm working on your behalf in Boston, and I'm only going to be as strong as the partnerships I have with all of you. So, you know, you'll see some of the folks with whom I've already been talking about these issues that I care about. I share your concern, and I'll bring our concerns to the Senate President. You know, so I just wanted to just do that little sidebar. I've been reminding us that, in fact, your work begins when my work begins, right? Because I'll only be able to do the work that we all want me to do if we are strong together. Okay, one more question. Who gets it? Who gets the final question? Please.
Hi, my name is Joe Hinton. I live in Hadley, own a game store in Greenfield, and run an international business from Northampton in the video game sector. And I love being here. I have offices all over the world. I love this as a workplace. I'd like your perspective on affordability in the Commonwealth, which certainly is something we think about a lot when dealing with employees for the area and clients and companies we work with in the area. Is getting a sense of being able to effectively live in the Commonwealth. Just like your perspective and your role and your position on that.
Yeah, well, it is expensive to live in most areas, if not all parts of the Commonwealth. More and more of our paychecks are being eaten up by basic housing, whether you rent or you own, and food, hopefully, you know, that. And so, you know, God forbid if you want to go out every once in a while or have children you need to feed, you know, and take care of, get school supplies, it's hard. That's a lot of what we look at, but particularly with the focus of income inequality for folks that are at the lower scale of the income ladder. What can we do to help make their lives better, is that they can start moving up the ladder a little bit more as well. We have looked at things like increasing, 4 years I've been chair of Ways and Means, we twice have increased the earned income tax credit, which is the best way to help folks with afford and help them move up that ladder. We have tried to build some more affordable housing. We still have a long way to go with that. And we've looked at schools and education opportunities and scholarships and lowering the cost of education. So we've tried to look at it in a holistic way. Do we have more to go? Yes, we do. And I invite you to share your thoughts with Senator-elect Comerford.
All right, friends. So thank you again to the Chamber. Thank you to Dennis Bidwell for helping us get together. Thank you to the Arts Trust for hosting. Thank you to Senate President Spilka, who has, you know, been doing this all day, and I know really committed to Western Massachusetts, and I'm very glad. And thank you to all of you. And now, Jeff, should we